Thanks so much for doing this, Hugh, first of all, for taking the time and getting me over here and be part of this little video series. And just for starters, could you just say your name and the instrument you play?
Yeah, I'm Hugh Buckley and I play guitar.
Lovely. So we get that out of the way. The thing this series is about is portraying and promoting different jazz guitarists in and around Dublin. And it's just like a little insight for people who are interested in that, to get to know the person and mostly their playing and their musical approach to the whole thing. So the first question I always ask in those little interview segments is like, where would you put your own playing? Like if you had a stream of history of jazz guitar from the 1920s or 1910s till now, where would you kind of put yourself in there? Where's your influence?
That's a tricky one really in one way. I mean, my influences would be, like originally would it be, I suppose, Joe Pass. He was the first guy I kind of heard like jazz guitarist really that I would have heard. So him, and then George Benson after that then. And then Wes Montgomery and Jim Hall. I suppose they'd be sort of the four guys sort of where I'm coming out of, definitely. You know, they were the guys I probably have listened to most, maybe. Yeah. So I suppose, yeah. But as regards my own thing, then out of that, I've been playing my own music for a long time too with bands. So I think it's developed out of those particular styles. I mean, it still is very, I suppose, coming out of the bebop thing, but I would like to think there's a bit of my own thing there at this stage. Like, I do listen to, a lot of contemporary players too, obviously, I'm very in touch with what's going on, say, now at the moment in the world, like in jazz guitar and, jazz in general, all right. So I'll be in touch with that. So I'd like to think it's kind of contemporary, but rooted in the tradition, and maybe a little bit of a personal thing there, hopefully.
That's good. That's a very good answer.
But only I hear that, nobody else hears that, But anyway, that's the way. Yeah.
Did you have, when you speak about those, that's obviously like the somewhat the godfathers of jazz guitar, like Benson, Joe Pass, Jim Hall. Do you ever have a period in studying the guitar where you really try to emulate a certain thing? Like where you really try to sound like George Benson or Jim Hall?
Well, there was one little period, actually, I remember, where Grant Green, actually, I was into Grant Green. And I was listening to a lot of his stuff, like, over a period. It wasn't really my intention to play like him, but I remember going out in gigs and playing, lots of people commenting, oh, Grant Green. So as soon as they started saying that, I stopped it then, But yeah, I suppose I listened to a lot of him, and you get that phrasing, that beautiful phrasing he has, and it's really grounded, and it's really, you're trying to replicate that beautiful tone as well. I was playing my Gibson at the time, actually, I have a Gibson L4 that I played for a long time, and at the time I was, trying to get that sound, that beautiful sound he gets. But I think that's probably the only time when I was trying to, or not consciously emulating somebody, but probably was emulating a particular sound, But I also think, I mean, if you listen to someone like Wes Montgomery, like there's no getting away from that too, And I remember a few reviews I got in the beginning, when I was out playing and maybe doing a bit of recording. And I think most reviews mentioned Wes Montgomery and the thing, so I stopped listening to Wes as well, because, it's very easy to drop into play the octave thing and then play a chord solo after that as well. I think I was doing a lot of that at the time, so I suppose that is emulating a style as well, really, maybe not consciously, but, so I don't know whether that answers the question, but...
No, that's perfect, that's great. When we just think about that, the early days, what made you start playing the guitar, maybe first of all, before we even delve into jazz?
Yeah, guitar. Well, I was always into music. I come from a musical family. There was always music around the house. My sisters, they played piano, and there was a piano there all the time. There wasn't any stringed instruments really. Oh, there was a bass. My dad played bass, actually. Of course, there was a stringed instrument. My dad plays bass. There was an electric bass. I remember he had an acoustic bass early on, but I don't know what happened. That went missing. I kind of avoided playing until I was about 16. I think I was 16, going on 17. And a few of my friends were playing the guitar, actually, which was the thing. I suppose at the time that was 70s too, so all the guys, Eric Clapton and all those guys were playing all that. So it was kind of the thing to do. And if I was going to go into music, the guitar was the instrument I liked. I liked the sound of it, I suppose, and I liked the look of it. And so I bought a guitar from a friend for £30. at the time. I remember a guitar and an amp for £30. Actually, yeah. Kevin McConnell, actually, he was a very good friend of mine. He was playing, and we formed a little band and played in the garage every night. My dad's garage, you know, at home, and
that's great.
Went on from there. Yeah, it was great. I was lucky straight off to have a couple of guys who wanted to play. Actually, you know, that was a great thing immediately. Like as soon as I got a guitar, I had a few guys to play with. You know, I mean, I couldn't really play, but we were trying to write songs with, you know, 2 chords and things like that. And yeah, my cousin played a bit of drums. Well, he was beginning to play drums, so he got a tin can and got a pair of drumsticks and started playing. I mean, that was the first week of the playing, you know. So it built from there, and we got going eventually and started getting a few gigs then, and that's how I got started actually playing, you know. So it was late enough, I suppose, 16 going on 17 to just start playing.
That's a really great story. So when you mentioned that Clapton in the 70s, obviously a very guitar driven decade.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
In terms of rock music or everything, fusion as well, funk. Yeah. When did the transition to jazz happen for you? Yeah,
well, I think as I say, like originally I would have been listening to people, I suppose like Clapton and that, and I liked Carlos Santana and Focus, a band called Focus with Jan Ackerman on guitar. You know, groups like that, which had, you know, the guitar was probably the lead or the main instrument in them, and I get into that. But I was always interested in harmony, you know, groups with or music with, you know, had nice chord sequences as well. I think I got that from my dad. He loved the harmony. He was always pointing out, listen to this chord here and that, you know. So I began listening to stuff like that. Steely Dan would have been one, you know, band I get into then. You know, got the Asia album, I remember, and that got me sort of, you know, that's, you know, certainly jazz influenced, you know. So I was listening to that, and then one night on TV on RTE, which is unusual, you wouldn't get it now probably. There was Joe Pass in concert, solo concert, you know, and this really knocked me out now when I saw this guy, you know, like one guy, you know, sounded like an orchestra on guitar, you know, he had the melody and the harmony and the bass lines going and the rhythm, or sounded like rhythm. I was just merciful, and I was just really, wow, you know. I said I'd love to get a bit of that, you know, and so that really got me into it then, you know. I started listening and start looking at extending the chords a bit, you know, a few little ninths and 13ths and things like that, and trying to get that sound, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, then my uncle, Dick, who was Richie and Michael's dad, he was playing around town every week. He had this gig in town in Parliament Street with Tommy Halferty, Ronan Kilfoyle and Peter Ainscough. I think that was the band, and I started going every week, and after the gig, you know, I'd pick a tune that they played, and I asked my uncle to write out the chords, you know. I remember he wrote the chorus to Wave. I learned that, you know, because I liked them. You know, it was a very melodic melody, you know. So I got working at that now. I'm not saying I played it straight away. Yeah, I didn't actually, but it was really interesting, you know. I was trying to find out, you know, what a diminished chord was and things like that, you know, and so from there on, you know, I get into it and began to get a few tunes together, and then I got to sit in, maybe play a tune, and that was terrifying at the time. I don't know what it was like for yourself sitting in with a band or something for the first time, but I remember probably lost about a stone in weight, and but it was a great experience, because each time you do that, you go back home and say, oh God, I need to get this, I need to get my rhythm, I need to get my time together, like, you know. And I find that's one of that's probably the main, you know, thing that people find difficult, actually making a transition maybe from pop or rock music, like, because a lot of people, you do that. I think you said you do that too also, yeah. It's the time thing, isn't it? Like, you know, it's really is difficult, you know, and when there's a lot of syncopated stuff going on around you, and, you know, to be actually, you know, to hold down or play a solo in time, actually, so that's a difficult one. So I had to get the metronome out, and that introduced me to that aspect of of musicality and all that stuff. So yeah, so from there on, you know, got playing, and then eventually got my own gig in town a few years later, and went on from there, I suppose. Yeah.
We talked about on the drive up here in the car about Dublin in general and how it is changing over the years.
Sure. Yeah.
Just to cop onto what you just said there, how was, in terms of jazz and music, how was it when you started? Like you mentioned that regular gig your uncle had, but Was it around town or in Ireland? Was there jazz much to be seen and heard?
Well, Dublin, or in Dublin, there was a lot of gigs on. There was this, like the Sunday jazz thing was really big. You know, the Sunday brunch and the Sunday afternoon gigs and Sunday night gigs actually. They were all over town at that stage. This would have been, I suppose this was around the 80s, mid-80s or something. Yeah, there was a lot of gigs. You know, a lot of it would have been old, you know, Dixieland, mainstream stuff and all that. But it was great. You could go around on Sunday, you could start at 12:30 in the day, and you know, if you're going to listen to a gig, and you could go on until midnight at night, you know. And I remember at one stage, I did have 4 regular gigs on a Sunday. For a while, actually, yeah, I can't remember that, but it was definitely around mid-80s. Like I had a lunchtime gig and early afternoon, late afternoon, then a nighttime gig, actually. And that was great because it meant you were playing, you know. Yeah. And we were playing with a lot of different people and playing lots of different tunes. And I was playing with a lot of the older guys too. Well, obviously, they would have been older than me then, I suppose, because... yeah, well, not obviously. Why would it be obvious? But yeah, I played with a lot of older guys who were playing, you know, the old standard tunes, you know, Sweet Georgia Brown and all that stuff. So I had to try and learn those tunes as well, and you know, a lot of them I learned on the bandstand, you know. So it's the real old school sort of stuff, you know, which kind of doesn't exist anymore, really. You know, I think today a lot of people are doing. Are playing their own music, like original music, so it's harder to sit in with people in a way, isn't it? You know, if they're doing that, you know. But yeah, there was a lot of gigs around town, and then there'd be a few gigs during the week. Of course, I suppose the main thing for me actually at the time was Louis Stewart was here. And for anyone who was into jazz guitar, playing jazz guitar, like he, you know, obviously he was the main man. And it was possible to see him every week, you know, to go see Louis every week. He had a few different residencies around the place. I remember one in Slattery's in Capel Street, and he had one in opposite the Rotunda Hospital in Parnell Street there. Can't remember the name of the place, but that was there. And then he played in JJ's. He had a Monday night residency there for years with my cousin Richie on saxophone with him as well. So that being able to go hear Louis Stewart every week, like just like a world-class musician playing, and to watch him play, and then to be able to chat with him afterwards and all that stuff was just fantastic, you know, really. And that was a huge benefit, you know, because it would really inspire you to go home and practice and, you know, motivate you to do that, you know. So at that time when I heard him, I suppose it would be late 70s, early 80s, he was sounding a bit like Pat Martino. I think he was into a Pat Martino phase himself, started going through that. He was really boring it up, you know, ripping it up. But of course he had his own thing too. He has I'm sure you're familiar with Louis, you know, playing, you know, he has a way of phrasing a melody and, you know, and yeah, I mean, he would have been a huge influence as regards, you know, being into hearing music, yeah, live music regularly, you know.
Would it be fair to say that that's kind of sums up your education, learning part on the guitar, like learning on the bandstand, watching Louis Stewart sitting in with bands, instead of, or did you ever receive formal lessons or anything like that?
No, yeah, I'm self-taught really, I suppose. I went to Tommy Halfley for a few lessons, I remember, and he showed me a few chords actually. You know, a few of those extended chords, and we'd play some tunes and we'd listen, you know, we had some really good listening sessions. So that would have been the only sort of, you know, formal sort of thing. We call it formal, like, you know, it was, and that was great. That was great as well, because Tommy would have been another guy around I went to hear. As I say, he was playing with my uncle at the time, no, but beyond that, it was just like listening to records and, you know, trying to transcribe a little bit and, you know, taking phrases here and there, and then going home after the gig and trying to learn that tune that I made a mess of earlier on in the evening, you know, trying to find out what the melody is and what the harmony is. And I suppose one downside of that, actually, I learned a load of tunes where I know the harmony, but I didn't learn the melodies, you know, because there was probably 3 or 4 horn players playing the melodies and you never got a look in them. So it's only in recent times, actually, some of those really standard tunes that I know I'm learning the melodies and trying to actually learn the tune, actually really know the tune, you know. But no, I mean, that was great schooling. You know, there's nothing like playing. You know, going out and playing. Okay, you have to do your practice and your study, but like playing is where it's at, really, isn't it? You know, you learn so much, you know, about every aspect of it, and you know, about listening, you know. So
just the listening aspect, and you said records and transcribing. Do you have any kind of really important personal record for yourself that you listen? You know, like for some people it's the Kind of Blue, or for some people it's a specific Joe Pass one, maybe the Virtuoso.
A favourite record, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Virtuoso was the first album I heard, actually. One of the Virtuosos. I can't think which way. It's the one that has All the Things You Are on it, and I think Around Midnight, is it that one? The Song Is You. I think that one, actually, yeah. Yeah, that would have been one I heard early on, so it would mean a lot to me. I suppose one that most people sort of mention is Smoking at the Half Note, you know that one? The West Punk cover. So many people mention that, and it becomes it's like a cliche to say it, but it's such a great record, you know. It's such a great playing, and also it's a great example of the piano and guitar as well. You know, how to play with a piano as well, because you know we tend to do that a lot as well. So it's that's a great album, you know.
Just bring us back a little bit to. I'm personally really interested, and I think a lot of people who watch those videos are, well, there's some older guys, but I think from what I've seen, there's a lot of young guitar players who watch those videos, and through colleges like New Park, also like myself, people from other countries who don't know much about Dublin, let's say in the 80s or in the 90s, as a music scene. So just maybe let us walk through your musical journey. Did you set out, I'm going to be a professional guitar player and I'm going to do this, and did you have a plan or some guidance, or did you just, whatever happens? Yeah,
well, it kind of evolved over a period, you know. I was doing like various jobs outside of music, you know, for a while, and people were saying to me, oh, you should go and do music, you know, because I think most of the time when I'll be doing these jobs, I'll be listening to music or photocopying, you know, charts and stuff like that, So I probably wasn't suited to the other world, actually, really. So eventually, actually, what happened? I had this job and I was made redundant, actually, and that made me, you know, think about it, and I decided, you know, I'll give it a go, actually. You know, play music and see how this goes, you know, because at that time, you know, I didn't think you could make a living out of that, you know, you can make a career really, but what was really inspiring actually was Hugh Buckley, my cousin. He was doing that at that stage before me. I think when he was about 17, he was out on the road. He went to America, actually, I think when he was about 17, if I'm correct. He went over for 6 months over there, and he liked playing music, you know, and I remember him coming back and just thought, wow, that's amazing, like, you know, that you could actually do that, you know, because I think Ireland in those days, everybody was, like, parents would be trying to tell you to get a good steady job and, you know, for life and all that sort of stuff, you know. I know things are very different now, but that's the way it was culturally then. I think people are encouraged to do what they like now a lot of the time now, and or at least, you know, go for something that you have a passion for, at least give it a go anyway, you know. So I did. I mean, that I had no option right anyway. But at the time I was playing, you know, I would have been playing a few nights a week anyway at that time. So I started doing it. That was, you know, 30 years ago, I think now. So so actually it worked out very well then. You know, I began practicing a bit more, studying the music a bit more seriously then, really, you know. You're working out some daily routines for practice, you know, make sure you know, that you're focusing on certain things and getting things right, you know. And then I was lucky then to be playing some really good musicians, like John Wadham was a drummer that was around. I'm sure you've at least heard of John Wadham. Yeah. He was a fantastic drummer, you know, and he really knew the jazz music so well, you know. He'd really, he was a bit of an authority on the music, really, you know. So he was a great man to work with, and every time I played with him, I think I learned something, you know, about swinging and like time feels and even chord changes, you know. He'd be at or melodies, he'd know the melody, he'd be at the point there that the third bar there, that's an F sharp, not an F natural. He was great at that, a great man for pointing and stuff like that. So you'd learn quickly, you know, and you'd make sure, you know, you had your act together the next time you played, you know. So it was great. And then I actually started getting a few calls. I got a call from Louis Stewart then, wants to do a gig. He had a duo gig, and I mean, that was amazing. And to get a call from him, actually, that was really nerve-wracking, but it was great, you know. And it's it was a good boost as well, like they had a call from someone like him, you know, and so yeah, so I did a number of gigs with him, and then I got a call. He was setting up. Louis Stewart was starting up a 5-guitar band. This was about 1988, and he gave me a call for it as well, you know, and yeah, the 5 guitars were David O'Rourke, who lives in New York. I don't know whether you know him. Dave's a great player. Michael Nielsen, who we all know, who's a great player as well, and Bill Brady, who was a guy who was a friend of Louis from way back, I think, and he was a very good reader. You know, I think that's what they needed. And I wasn't a very good reader, still not a very good reader, but yeah. So we rehearsed every Monday in town, and we started doing a few gigs then. But the rehearsals were great, and a great learning thing as well. You know all the 5 guys in the room and bringing in charts every week, and sort of. Yeah, Louis wrote most of the charts, most of the arrangements, and the other guys wrote a few. At the time, I didn't have that skill. I was just really starting out, but then eventually I was able to bring something to the table as well. But yeah, that was great. That was a great experience, that 5-guitar thing, and we did the Cork Jazz Festival and a few things like that, you know. And it was really good learning experience, you know.
That's amazing, all the history about kind of a little bit of the Dublin scene and what happened there.
Yeah.
Just going on from that, you have a beautiful guitar right here.
Yeah.
Which I've seen you play in videos and on gigs. Can you tell us a little bit about this specific guitar?
Well, it's made by John Moriarty, who you know, and he's a great guitarist here in Dublin, and it's just a beautiful archtop guitar, just really lovely to play, easy to play. It's custom made, I suppose, really, for me, and it's I mean, the neck is just really a nice size for me. I have smallish hands, so the neck is just perfect for me. Lovely tone, nice acoustic sound, you know. So it is the guitar I play most. Yeah, funny about. I mean, ask me about like guitars. Actually, funny, I've never really been into the instrument. Like, you know, I never really sort of thought about the instrument too much. I think initially, like, I just thought myself as a musician, really, you know, or someone who just was into music, and then, as I say, I happened to, you know, play guitar because a bunch of friends were playing guitar, and it's only in recent years I got into the instrument itself and started looking at the instrument, because I remember I had a Gibson L4 for a long time, and people asked me about the tailpiece, and I was thinking, now what's the tailpiece? I presume that must be and this is recent enough, you know, so I never really sort of, you know, and I could be at a gig at a guitar player, you know, watching a guitar player, and the guy would ask me, what was he playing? And I wouldn't know. I'd say it was kind of a brown guitar. so I'm sorry, I'm not great man to answer stuff like that, you know, but that's one humbucker pickup, I think, actually, yeah, that John put on, and it's it just has, you know, volume and tone. You know, very simple make. Yeah, what's beautiful about that, it looks like a slim body there now, actually, but you can see there's a nice belly on it there. See there, that?
Yeah.
If you can see it there, can you? Yeah.
Yeah, that's
a nice
perfect.
belly there. So it's actually a wider body than it actually looks, you know, from the here. So yeah, I'm very happy with this. It's great for chords, you know, too. It has great clarity up, you know, up the top of the neck as well, which I didn't really have with the Gibson, even though I love we discussed this earlier. We're talking about it kind of had that, you know, vintage sound, you know, but yeah, this one, it just really suits what I do right now. Cool. I do play, I have a Telecaster which I do play sometimes, actually, and I use a volume pedal. Yeah, I haven't used pedals in a long time. When I played rock music, I used like pedals and stuff like that, you know, distortions and wah-wahs and all that, you know, but I haven't, I just hadn't felt a need, actually, just, you know, from a sonic point of view, actually, you know, I just like what the guitar can do itself, actually, you know, at this time, you know, so I keep it fairly simple as regards, you know, fairly basic, you know.
And even from a sonic point of view, when you went to John and asked him to build a guitar for you, was there anything you remember you said to him, like, you know, I wanted to sound more like this, or more like a mix of 2 guitars you already had, or? Yeah,
I think I did want a sort of a woody sort of sound, you know. If that's, you know where you hear the wood sort of as opposed to like a pure electric sound, you know. So we did get that, yeah, I did want that. And as I say, I wanted, you know, clarity on the neck, you know, be able to hear, you know, everything up really clear. That's piercing there, but you know, you'd be able to, you know. be able to play chords up the top of the neck, which I thought wasn't able to do. So they were the only things I kind of said to him. Neck size. I like the neck on the Gibson, so I think this is the exact same neck as the Gibson. I mean, measurement wise, anyway. So that was about it. Just a good woody sound. Where the other guitar is more electric, really. So this is kind of more like acoustic electric. So that's what I was after, really. Yeah. So.
The next thing on my list, what I want to ask you about is the two little things, like in your kind of personal involvement in the Dublin scene and in music. One is, like we talked about in the car about it, where maybe many people know you even outside of jazz, would be the Dublin Guitar Night, which was like a sort of institution in Dublin. I remember when I came here in first year in college, I seen loads of gigs and I got introduced to loads of different musicians and guitar players. It would have taken me way longer otherwise to spot them on other gigs and hear about them, but just on this kind of regular thing where you see like 3 acts on a night, I just got a lot out of it. And I was just wondering, how did you come up with that, and how, like, just a little bit of the history about this project?
Well, first of all, that's great that you said that, because that was my intention with it. First of all, to create sort of a bit of a network of guitar players, and and get people to hear people play, and also it was to try to encourage people to play some music that they like to play, actually, because a lot of guitar players are out doing playing music to make money. And playing music that they might not necessarily enjoy or particularly like. So it was one of my hopes that people out there were writing music at home and didn't have a chance to air it, that it might be an opportunity there. But I think the idea came out of, at the time, the recession. It really was, and there was very little going on in Dublin for a year or two. I remember, like, it was really at the height of the recession, really. And I just thought, I think it was probably just driving one day, I thought, it wouldn't be great if we had a little hub where we could all sort of meet up and chat, and maybe, and then I thought, want to get a night where we play, and so I just came up with the concept of having a few acts. Originally, for the first year, I had 4 acts on a night, which worked very well, but the timing of it was difficult, and so I reduced that to 3 just to make it easier to put together. But that was great. So I think overall there was over like 100 players, like guitar players, actually played on the night, from all different styles, and I tried each week to introduce someone new as well. Obviously all the established players, all around the country. Actually, it wasn't just Dublin. It was called Dublin Guitar Night, but there was people from all over the country, played, and from abroad as well. But I tried to introduce some, maybe like a very good student of mine or something like that as well, on the scene, or someone who just was really doing it and sounded good. It was about keeping quality there as well, so you could hear good music. And it was good. I kept the price at €10 as well, which was great at the time as well. So it was an amazing night, because some of the music there, like and it was great. And I really got to meet a lot of people who you would see who spoke on social media. Actually, the amount of people who knew each other from social media but had never met each other. I heard that so many times in there. Oh yeah, that's you. I know you from from Facebook or something, like So it did do what it was supposed to do, but unfortunately at the end JJ's closed down, and I just found it difficult in my head to sort of carry it on. But I might have actually tried to get it going again, because I think it was a very good thing. And
so there's a glimpse of hope.
Yeah. Somebody else could do it, I suppose. There are other ones, like Galway has one as well, and that came out of my own one. I don't mind saying that, but and the guys are still going strong out there. They had one there last week, I think, and it's it's always very well attended. And there's a London one as well, actually. There's a guy, Chris Woods, actually, who came over. He's an acoustic, like solo acoustic player. He came over and he played on the night, and he went back and set up a London one as well. So that's great. So that's it's So it was a very successful night, and as I say, it did do what it was supposed to do. Create some sort of a network of people, and it would be nice possibly to get it going again now that you mention it, yeah.
Like I'd love to.
It's just getting a venue, you know. JJ's, Brian Smith down there was very supportive, you know, and he advertised it very well, and you know everything was in the house. You had your PA, and you know, and we had Spanner, a great doorman down there, Spanner, who was really supportive of the night. He really enjoyed the night, and you know he was a great man there. There was a great team of people there just around us, so you know, to help out. So maybe you can find somewhere, but yeah, it was a great event.
Great, thanks very much for that.
You're welcome.
It's great to hear. I actually I was playing last night in Galway, not last week in Galway.
Oh right.
Night, and the
guys, great.
The guys spoke really highly about like you, and they went actually up back in the day from Galway to Dublin to see it. And,
that's right. They used to travel every month.
Yeah, and that's why like they were like, oh, we should be.
And Kieran,
yeah, Kieran and lovely guys, and
fantastic.
Totally looking after us, and Jimmy Smith was playing as well.
Oh, great!
Yeah, it was a great night, and they were just like, it was amazing to see how it kind of spread from kind of your idea or your thing here in Dublin to another place, and so it would be great to have it here in Dublin.
It would, yeah. It just goes to show you just have to do things. Actually, you know, don't think about them too much. Just do it. You know, because you could easily just think, oh, I mean, that'd be a great idea, but you have to do it. Actually, that's one thing I learned from that. You know, so you definitely just do it and go with it. Yeah, so it lasted for over 4 years and every month. So it was, great event. All right.
All right. Just to wrap things up at the end, you talked about at the start of this about how you hope, as much as everyone, to have something original in your playing or something of your own. And just to talk about your own music, I was listening to a record called Sketches of Now.
Oh yes,
from yours, which is from 2008, and I really enjoyed it, and I was very surprised by it because I don't know for what reason. Maybe it's the guitar, maybe it's a particular gig. I've seen you a couple of years back, but I had you in my mind very much in the traditionalist corner, which isn't a bad thing at all, but when I listened to the record, it was very much like it was very lyrical, it was kind of it was modern sounding, there was many different influences. It wasn't like a classic bebop record.
Yeah, sure.
There was like the first tune was great with a trumpet who played the main line. There was like a tango influence on a different tune, like it was kind of world music influences, I'd say. Maybe just speak about your approach when you write songs, or what you kind of want to achieve.
Yeah, well, actually, it's very simple and probably very the answer to that. What I try to get from my, for a set of music is a balanced set, with different moods and colours and grooves and that. So if I've already have like a swing tune and a ballad and a waltz and all those standard sort of thing, well then I want, say, maybe a funk tune or a tango or something like that, So what I'll do, I'll go to listen to a bunch of stuff for a while and absorb that, sort of thing, and then maybe, hopefully over the period that, I'll come up with some ideas, and it usually happens driving. Actually, driving's great after that, where you sing a melody or something or a rhythm or something and get that together. So eventually, over a period of time, I got a set that was a fairly balanced set. Had a lot of different things going on, a lot of different grooves, and as I say, different sound colours going on, and where in the early days, I suppose most of the stuff I was doing was probably swing stuff and swinging, in the tradition, as you say. So that's what I was saying. As regards to style, I would like to think it's more contemporary than people might think. Yeah, as you say, you actually thought that as well. So that's a popular misconception. But
that's why we're here to eradicate.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So,
thanks so much for doing this. It was very interesting. We got a lot of information. Thanks for your time and picking me up.
You're welcome. No problem.
Just as the last thing, if people want to see and hear you play, is there any regular thing at the moment, or is there a band or people you work with in and around Dublin, Ireland?
Well, I do have my own group. I have a group, there's a quartet. It's with Phil Ware, Dominic Mullen, and Dan Bodwell. I've been working with them for a while. We also have that group with strings, with a string quartet as well. That's the latest project over the last couple of years. I somehow managed to get Fikra Trench, who's a great arranger, to write string arrangements for the tunes. A lot of those tunes that you would have heard on that album, Sketches of Now, and a few different albums. So that's a project we have ongoing. We're trying to do a few art centre gigs and things like that. So I don't have a regular gig at the moment, which probably would be a nice thing now. I had a regular gig at JJ's for about 15 years, with Isotope, that group with Richie and Miles and that. Miles Drennan and Richie Buckley. So I don't have a real gig at the moment, but I have a website, hughbuckleymusic.com, and there's a gigs page on there, so anything that I'm doing actually is up there. There's a few gigs coming. Actually, I have a good few gigs over the next few weeks. There's a Holt Festival and there's a few things like that going on. So yeah, a few different setups like duos, trios, quartet things going on. So you can check it out there. Actually, people want to hear some music, yeah. So
cool.
Some live music, yeah.
Perfect. I'm sure people love to. Me definitely. So thank you for your time. Now we're just going to play a tune and call it a day.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
I was trying to think, geez, how does this go? And I was thinking, sorry about that. Okay.
No,
okay, let's go.
Sorry, don't worry at all.
Yeah. you.